This podcast is sponsored by the UK's #1 matched betting site. OddsMonkey shows you exactly how to turn free bets into real money. Win even if your bet loses. Give it a try at oddsmonkey.com for just £1 when you sign up to premium using the offer code BERGCAMP.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and joining me tonight, I've got a guest who's a big French football expert, Lyon fan when she's in France. She is the tweeter formerly known as Lana Dawood. Lana, thank you for coming on, my dear.
Thank you for having me.
What a prestigious moment in our lives that we finally get to talk on a podcast.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to be asked.
Yeah, it's a long time coming, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
I've been, begging you to almost take me on your podcast.
I wouldn't call it begging. I really.
No, just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. I know you're popular, or you were popular, in Twitter sphere with your, you did many a guest podcast. You know what I mean? So, modesty will get you everywhere. Anyway.
Yeah, you're lucky I'm coming on.
I'm lucky. Oh, right.
Yeah.
That didn't last long, did it? The switch around didn't last long.
I'm just joking. No, I'm really, I'm honored to be asked. It's always nice to be recognized for, your knowledge, whatever knowledge that is.
Indeed, we're gonna pick it tonight. So, Alexander Lacazette, finally. On his way to Arsenal. He's done his medical, everything's done, signed, sealed, and almost delivered, rubber stamped. I mean, why has it taken
10 years in making?
Come on, man. Why has it been so long? I mean, why has it been so long? Why is it taking it up to this point that we've got him now?
I think it's a mix of everything, actually. People have different opinions on him. They call him a one-season wonder, a penalty merchant. He does it at Tin Pot League. Whatever, depends who you follow. But it's more of he's, came through at Lyon. He wanted to stay loyal, different things. The whole Fekir injury, he had to stay and, bring the team on to the Champions League. They lost Fekir, who was having a great season, was called up to the national team, then got off injured against Portugal on a friendly. So, he couldn't leave. He had to stay and help his team. And he's not just a striker who, plays for Lyon. He's a leader. He's a captain, who feels the obligation to bring this team forward in France and in Europe. And I think it's very admirable of him that he stayed on. He could have left, for 2 summers now. He could have gone. But he decided to stay on, and I think now is the right time. Lyon are bringing in, replacements for him, and
others.
It's his chance to finally go on to do not necessarily better, but to grow as a player. I think that the reason Arsenal have been, hesitant in maybe bringing him on earlier was because his first season, they weren't sure if this was just a one-season thing, or if this was actually him finally breaking through, with Gomez leaving, Lissandro leaving. This was finally his time to shine, and he had a great first season. Went on a second season as well. He started out so well with Fekir, and then he lost Fekir, and he lost that creativity, and he not only had to, change as a player, be more creative as self, linking up better with players and evolving. And he did well, not as well as he did in his first season, but he still scored. He has been scoring 25 plus goals for 3 seasons now. So it's safe to say that the one season wonder label, we can take that off the list. So this is the season, where he finally stepped up as a captain in the absence of Gunaloon, who was, either suspended, injured, or on poor form. He was having a really bad season. So, he stepped up. He's evolved a lot as a player. He's not only scoring goals, he created 35 plus chances, assisting, bringing others into play. Also, bringing out the best in other players who not necessarily are as good as him. But you need that kind of player in such a young team as Lyon, who are all, most of them are academy players who, couldn't, like PSG, buy whoever they wanted to, so they had to rely on their academy. And I think this summer is finally the time for him to move on. It's a statement of everything he's done for the past 3 seasons. And I think also us as fans who've watched him grow into such a great striker know that it's time. He is ready for the next thing. And I think also Austin agrees with that. Otherwise, he wouldn't make him, a record signing and bringing him on.
Another question, Lana, is why this transfer didn't happen last summer? From what I understand, there was there a deal? Was there a fee or an amount that Ola had in mind, and Arsenal kind of went near it eventually? And then, just break it down. Why didn't it happen? Why is Ola so reluctant? Why has Ola been so reluctant to deal with Arsenal in the past? Because in my eyes, this should have happened 3 years ago.
There were 2 very, very stubborn men. Aulas is one of the most feared presidents in Europe. He is very hard to negotiate with. Not many clubs wish to negotiate with him. We saw that with Madrid when they signed Benzema. That was a really long and tough negotiation. In the end, Aulas got 45 million out of them. And, people can bash him and say, oh, he says so much, he talks so much, and blah, blah, but he is such a great businessman, much like Wenger. And that's also, why they might not get along. Remember, Arsenal hasn't signed any Lyon players with Remy Gard, and that was over 20 years ago. So it's not easy to come and negotiate with him. And I think last summer they might have offered or, made a bid. I don't think, as it was mentioned by Julian Lawrence, that they were still unsure whether or not to bring him in last summer. So this summer, they were 100% sure this is our guy. We're going to get him no matter what the costs are. And the fact that also Lacazette said in January, this will be my last season at Lyon, might have had something to do with it being easier to negotiate a deal.
Arsenal were his second choice, would you say? I mean, obviously, it sounds like from what Ola said that his heart was set on Atletico Madrid. It didn't happen. But he seemed to be very, he seemed to have put that to one side and been like, right, boom, Arsene Wenger, Arsenal. This seems to be.
He's been a fan of Arsenal for a long time. Henry is one of his favorite players when he looks to, they've also talked a lot, especially when Lacazette went to America and Henry was playing for the New York Red Bulls. They talked a lot, spent a lot of time together. That's also been in the newspapers. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was a second choice because it is a club he holds dear. It's a club where most French players have gone on to be successful at. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was second choice. I think that had Atletico hadn't they had the ban, obviously he would have gone there to play with Griezmann and, play the Champions League. But due to the ban, he went to Arsenal. And people would be like, okay, it was his second choice. But he had, the option of one or the other. He went to Arsenal. I don't think that would be a bad choice in the long term. I think he will go on to be very successful, even if people compare him to Shamak or Gervinho. But I doubt he will, suffer that fate. So it's not to bash Arsenal in any choice, in any term. So no, I don't think it was the second choice. I think, he probably had a few clubs to pick and choose from. Atletico didn't happen. Okay, I'll go to Arsenal.
In football, timing is such a key, important factor. And as you said, he's 26 now. He's fully matured. and it seems like, would you say Lyon fans are accepting that, he's reached the end of his life cycle there. He's done as much as he can, and, this is the right time to move?
Yeah, obviously they're upset. No one wants to see their star player leave, but they're also happy for him. They know that this is the right thing for him to do, for his career, when it comes to, club football, also for the national team. Deschamps isn't a manager who picks, League One based players a lot, unless they're his favorites, obviously. And this is also something that many Arsenal fans have questioned about Lacazette. Why are we signing, is our club signing a striker that's not getting into the national team ahead of their striker? And this has nothing to do with Lacazette being, shit, as they like to call it. It's more about the style of play that France plays, and the fact that the system that's in place right now is not for Lacazette, but it's for a player like Giroud.
What system do they play, and why doesn't it fit him?
They play with the target man, with Griezmann playing off Giroud, and then you have, the wingers on with Payet and with Griezmann, and then you have Giroud on top. And it's not a formation that suits Lacazette compared to Giroud. You would play Big Mac or Gignac ahead of Lacazette because that system suits him better than it does Lacazette. It's not a quick formation, it's not a kind of quick,
fast transition
style of play. Yeah. Cause that would suit Lacazette better. If you look at Lyon, how they play compared to France. And that's also something that, Deschamps has been heavily criticized over the past, 2 years. Why are we still playing with a man that's so slow? He's a target man. He's great for France. But it's, that ability to show up when it really matters. And again, it has nothing to do with the fact that, just because Lacazette doesn't get ahead of Giroud, that he's a bad player. It's just that the system doesn't fit Lacazette, the way it fits Giroud. Benzema's not called up.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's an amazing player, but due to, his past and everything, and Benzema's done for the national team. So now you have Giroud, who's basically leading that team.
Would you say that, I've heard it said today that it's not Giroud that's keeping Lacazette out of the team, it's actually Griezmann. Do you agree with that?
No, I really don't, because...
So you don't see him as a number, sort of like a false nine or a shadow striker or whatever the term may be?
No, because again, Griezmann and Giroud, they link up really well together. And I don't think with that formation that France play that Lacazette would necessarily perform to the same standards as Giroud does. They're two completely different players.
And Griezmann?
But you'd have to change formations to fit Lacazette and Griezmann in. They've done it for the youth team, so I don't see why they shouldn't do it, for the senior team. But again, it has more to do with the manager and his style of play and the players he trusts more than it does with the actual players.
Now, Lacazette's scoring record is second to none, as you said, 25 plus goals for the last 3 seasons. And as you alluded to earlier on, a lot of skeptics will say he's a penalty merchant. What do you say in response to that? I think he scored something like 20 of his 94 goals. I think 25 or 26 have been penalties.
18 have been penalties of the 91 he scored.
I stand corrected. What would you say in response to that?
People like to think that, scoring penalties are easy, but if you look at, some of the great strikers, they're not always confident in going up to the penalty mark to score. And, a goal is a goal, whether it comes from the penalty mark or whether it's in a,
exactly.
free-flowing attack.
It has the same value as an overhead kick,
it does.
Kick, a volley or anything, yeah.
And if you would give me the choice of picking Lacazette or Giroud to take a a final penalty, I would pick Lacazette every time. Because, not a lot of strikers have the same confidence to score a penalty. And you can see that Lacazette does. He's been, the club's penalty taker, so it's not his fault that he's been scoring them.
So in a sense, it shows how confident he is, how, he doesn't shirk responsibility, carrying a side on his back in terms of, in those kind of moments. So he's a very determined, quite a self-confident character, would you say?
Obviously. I mean, people don't bash Balotelli for scoring penalties. I don't see why they should be bashing Lacazette for doing it.
Indeed. Again, going on to the style of play that Lyon sort of adopts, what is that style of play? I mean, what formations do they tend to use, and where does he best fit in their formation?
He's very versatile. He started out as a winger when, you had Gomez and Lisandro playing at the club. And it wasn't until 3 seasons ago that he was really converted into a striker. He shares the same similarities as Henry in terms of, starting out wide and then coming into the center, but that's like the only similarities they have. I'm not comparing Henry and Lacazette, just so that's clear, but most French strikers have started out wide and then coming into the center. And I think that's what's so great about them. It's their, ability to be so versatile that they can play literally anywhere in attack. So it shouldn't be an issue if, Arsenal decide to play with the front two, or if they play with the, with him leading the line, because he has no issues doing that. Lyon played a number of formations last season, 3-5-2, 3-1-3, but he's done well, whether it's in a front two formation or if he's led the line on his own with Chazal and Cornet on the wings, or, Valbuena. It depends who Genesio would pick, but he's done well in either formations they've played. That's, also the difference between Giroud and Lacazette, because Lacazette is also very quick, and, in terms of, how he plays, and he's more versatile and able to play in different formations compared to Giroud, maybe.
A lot of people are asking, is he physically strong enough to play as a number 9 in the Premier League? I mean, obviously he's got a slow center of gravity, but he does ride challenges quite well, doesn't he? I mean, there's not, in terms of defending wise, I mean, the French league isn't poor, is it? Or intensity, in that
no,
respect,
I wouldn't say it. I mean, people talk about how the Premier League is the greatest league in the world, but that's also, gone down in terms of performance and the standards they once had. Other leagues get stronger, where others, weaken, and it's, that's just a transition while other teams get up and become better. That's just how it is. Doesn't matter what league it is. But, as I said earlier, he's evolved and matured a lot as a player. It's not just about scoring. He assists, he defends, he creates chances, and you want an all-around great striker like him. And he's only 26. He's gonna improve even more. So if you need, someone to defend as much as you need to score, you have that in Lacazette.
So, do you think that's one of the key factors in why Wenger Wenger's liked him since he was 16, but, he probably saw in this season, recent last season more than any other, that his ability to dig in, get back in defense. I mean, a lot of the counter-attacks that I saw, he started them from deep. He doesn't just get on the end of them. He actually is very much involved in the build-up play. His intelligent movement is another key feature.
He's very intelligent, and I think that's also why this is the summer Wenger wants him. He's a finished product. He's not just the young striker or winger anymore. He's grown and matured into such a great striker that, as you said as well, he creates chances, and he created 35 plus chances in the last 3 seasons. So, it's not just about scoring. It's about bringing others into play, creating something out of nothing, which not a lot of strikers do.
And his relationship with the ball players in terms of like, especially Fekir, he's got a great relationship with him, Tolisso, Valbuena. You'd expect that, coming into a team where you've got great creators like Ozil and you got Xhaka with his long passing, obviously,
Chamberlain, Ramsey as well.
Ramsey, those kind of players where, they can see, they'll spot a pass, especially someone like Xhaka, he'll spot a long raking pass. Lacazette's movement would probably, you'd bank on him sort of like really excelling and thriving with those kind of players, right?
He reads the game well, and I think he would link up really well with someone like Ozil. I think Ozil would benefit a lot from a striker like Lacazette. He's quick on his feet, He's intelligent as well. Not a lot of players are. He knows when, he knows how to read the game. He knows, he can see, he knows where to pick, where to stand, where to run. And you don't get that from a lot of strikers. That's the thing people fail to realize sometimes. Not a lot of players are intelligent when it comes to the game. And Lacazette is. He's matured a lot, compared to his first season when he broke through 3 years ago. And he has more creative players at Arsenal than he does at Lyon. Remember that he didn't have Fekir for over a year. He only had Valbuena at one point. Then he had Tolisso, who grew a lot as a player as well. You couldn't rely so much on Giles or Cornet to, help him out. So from going from 1 or 2 creative players to, 4+, it's a lot. I think he will become even better at Arsenal than he already is. And Ozil will benefit a lot from getting someone like Lacazette.
Indeed. I mean, for me, he seems to be quite a consistent scorer, not a streaky, sort of patchy scorer, someone that might score for like 4 or 5 games in a row and then go on a massive drought and then, hit a hot streak again. He does seem to be quite consistent. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he's consistently scoring. I think he's went 3 games without scoring. But he created chances. He assisted other players. So if he doesn't score, he assists, he brings out others into play. So
he's always involved in the game.
Yeah, he's always involved. You can see how Lyon are with him and how they are without him.
Now, a lot of people will probably, especially if Alexis Sanchez leaves the club, a lot of people will question, can he step up into Alexis Sanchez's boots? Now, they're obviously totally different kind of players, but people will still make the comparison. Just like when Van Persie left, they compared him to Podolski and Giroud, in terms of their output. Do you think there'll be a lot of pressure? Do you think that would be an unfair comparison?
I would. As you said, they're not, in terms of, they're different players altogether. And I think he has a lot of pressure on him already before he even signed, to perform. And he's going to have immense pressure if Alexis do leave Arsenal, because he's not only going to be, filling up his boots, he also has that pressure to perform right away. And Arsenal fans, they expect, results right away. Any player coming into the Premier League will need time to settle in, to adapt to the team, to the league, to, everything. And I'm not saying, it's going to take a lot of time, but you have to be patient with any player coming into a new team, to a new league. You need to be patient and give him time to adapt, to settle in.
I suppose his price tag won't allow a lot of people to allow him to have that sort of stay of, that kind of, what's the patience, or, with some people they'll be saying he's a record signing, he's got to be hitting the ground running. You know how some people are, they'll say, Zlatan Ibrahimovic came in last season, bang, didn't skip a beat.
You cannot compare Lacazette to Zlatan. Is a very unique player. You don't find many like him. Not many players have that ability to perform in any league like he does. So I genuinely hope they don't compare him to Zlatan. First of all, Zlatan is 10 years older. He's been in the game way longer. His ability to adapt is second to none. So they have to be patient. But I don't think he will have any issues settling in and doing well. It's just about, matter of being patient. Don't compare him to Giroud. Don't compare him to Alexis. He's Alexander Lacazette. He's his own player. He's come in because Arsene Wenger feels he's the right man to, eventually lead the team or take them to the next level. But that doesn't solely depend on him. Arsenal need to, strengthen other areas in their team as much as they need in attack.
Mm-hmm. In terms of settling in, I mean, there's a fair few French players there, and I know you've told me that he's been learning English. He's been taking English lessons for the last 2 years, so his English that in terms of that adjustment, that shouldn't be too stark. It shouldn't be such a sharp culture shock.
No, it shouldn't. Not at all. He hangs out in America a lot, so in terms of language barriers, that shouldn't be an issue at all. I've seen him interact with fans when I've been to Lyon, where he's interacted with fans that speak English to him. So really shouldn't be an issue. He'll speak French with Giroud, Koscielny, with Wenger. So I think he'll be fine. He'll do well. It's just a matter of being patient with him and let him settle in.
Indeed. Okay. So finally, just really wanted to ask, where do you think he will be getting? Do you see him getting at least 15, 20 in his first season here in England, or would you think it'll be a slower transition now, or would you think he'll just sort of won't skip a beat and take off carry on where he left off at Lyon?
I think he'll carry off where he left off if we compare it to the other three, to this previous seasons. But it's a new league, it's a new country. The type of formation, the style, what his instructions are, where to play, how to play, you can't expect him to just get into it. But I don't think he will take long in, getting started to score and all that. So I think he should settle in pretty quickly and start scoring. I think he'll score more than 15 goals. I think he'll reach at least 20.
Indeed, that sounds good for me. That sounds extremely good for me. I'm going to wrap it up here. Like I said, it was just a short special. Lana, I want to thank you for coming on finally.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed, it's been a lovely, pleasurable chat. I hope the listeners enjoyed it as well. And you can catch us on all the platforms, YouTube, iTunes, all the Android podcast platforms, also SoundCloud and so on and so forth. This pod will be coming out as soon as the announcement has been made. And on that happy note, I want to leave it there. So thanks for listening. Keep listening and up your Arsenal.
This podcast is sponsored by the UK's #1 matched betting site. OddsMonkey shows you exactly how to turn free bets into real money. Win even if your bet loses. Give it a try at oddsmonkey.com for just £1 when you sign up to premium using the offer code BERGCAMP.